Good morning, dear students. Today we are going to study our chapter number 12, The Selfish Giant. This story is about the selfish giant who never shares his things with others. But one day he realizes his mistake and becomes a generous giant. So let's start the story, children. Long, long ago, there lived a giant in a huge castle. He was the most selfish giant on this earth. He never shared his things. His castle had a huge garden. It was a large, lovely garden with soft green grass. Here and there, over the grass, bloomed beautiful flowers. There were trees that bore rich fruits. The birds sat on the tree and sang so sweetly. This giant had a friend. The giant's friend invited the selfish giant to his house. The selfish giant accepted the invitation and went to stay with him for a few months. Since the giant was away, children used to go and play in the giant's garden. One day the giant came back. When he arrived, he saw the children playing in the garden. "What are you doing here?" he cried in a very gruff voice. Gruff means in very deep or rough voice, and the children ran away. "This is my garden," said the giant, "and I will not allow anybody to play in it." So he built a high wall all around it and put up a notice board. "Trespassers will be prosecuted." Here, trespassers means people who go onto somebody's land without permission, and prosecuted means officially charge somebody with a crime in court. After that, the poor children had now nowhere to play. They tried to play on the road, but the road was very dusty and full of hard stones, and they did not like it. "How happy we were there," they said to each other. Then spring came, and all over the country there were beautiful flowers and little birds. Only in the selfish giant's garden it was still winter. The bird did not sing in it. No flowers bloomed. Everyone was sad. The only people who were pleased were Snow and Frost. The snow covered the grass with her big white cloak, and the frost painted all the trees white. "I cannot understand why spring is so late in my garden," thought the selfish giant as he sat at the window and looked out at his cold white garden. "I hope there will be a change in the weather." But spring did not come. Then autumn gave golden fruits to every garden, but to the giant's garden she gave none. One morning the giant was lying awake in bed when he heard some lovely music. It sounded very sweet to his ears. A bird was singing in his beautiful garden. It sounded very sweet to his ears. A bird was singing in his beautiful garden. It was so long since he had heard a bird sing in his garden. "I believe the spring has come at last," said the giant as he jumped out of bed and looked out. What did he see? He saw the most wonderful sight. Through a little hole in the wall, the children had crept in, and they were sitting on the branches of the trees. In every tree he could see there was a little child. The trees were so glad to have the children back again, and they had covered themselves with flowers and were waving their arms gently above the children's head. Birds were flying about and twittering with delight. Flowers were looking up through the green grass and laughing. It was a lovely scene. The children were playing and laughing. They looked so happy. The giant's heart melted as he looked out. How selfish I have been, he said. Now I know why spring would not came here. I will knock down the wall. My garden shall be the children's playground forever and ever. He was really very sorry for what he had done. So he broke all the walls around his garden. He allowed the children to play in the garden. So soon his garden was filled with the laughter of children. As year went by, the giant grew old and feeble. He could not no longer play with the children. He sat on an armchair and watched the children play. Since then, Spring never forgets to visit the giant's garden. So, dear students, after summarizing up the story, we come to the conclusion that a selfish person thinks only about himself, his own needs, interest, benefits, welfare, or wishes, and do not think about others. Whereas a generous person is the one who gives more than what is expected of him or her. And when we decide to go on one step beyond what is expected from us, we are being generous. So, children, at last, the moral we get from the story is that we should become generous and try to help and share our things with others. As we all know, sharing is caring. I hope you enjoyed the story, children. Thank you.